Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Can you everybody hear me okay?
Yep, you were good.
Great.
Good.
Good. I think our tech is working this year, guys.
Woo! A little better every year.
Live and recording. Good.
Yes, and I think I just got a notification. So yeah, they changed the platform. So I'm glad we could just kind of get on and welcome everybody who's coming on live. So do you want to give us a little intro there, anybody?
Well, welcome. If you're tuning in right now, we'll get started in just a few minutes with the official, but we wanted to log in and just have this readily available as you're coming on for our live Q&A for the graduate program here at CBU.
Indeed.
And if you have any questions, feel free, you can go ahead and start putting them in the comments. We're really glad that you're here and hope that more continue to log on. We've got a couple more minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we have 5 already, so we're getting there.
Fantastic.
Glad you could join.
Mercy, can I ask you a quick question? Well, this will go up on our social media as a recorded meeting, right? So people can check in if they're unable to make it for the live stream.
Absolutely. So it'll be archived to our YouTube, and then Johanna and I'll make sure that it's in our link tree and it's accessible from all of our social media platforms. So
Very cool.
Yes, and if you have questions as you're logging on, feel free to go ahead and add them in the chat so we can make sure we address those in the next coming minutes.
Thank you for your comment. We're starting to see some comments. I'm not sure if anybody else can see the comments, but yeah. Okay.
I can see them this year. I figured out the trick. You get one screen has got YouTube and the other screen has got our thing here. So a little bit of experience. I'm already figuring out the shortcuts.
Just wait for next year.
I know. Incredible. I could work on my background like Ray. Something really CBU like that pennant back there. I like that.
I'll let you borrow some. I have a bunch down here.
Mm-hmm. I tried to go seasonal. Got a poinsettia from Dr. Kim back there.
All right. Looks like we have about a minute before we start. Looks like more people are logged in. Great. Welcome, Candace. Yeah.
Well, it is 5 o'clock. So welcome all. And we're so glad you're here for this live Q&A to answer any questions you might have about the CBU graduate program for communication sciences and disorders. So we're so happy that you're here to join. Maybe we can get started by introducing ourselves, those of us who are here to share. My name is Johanna Pulliam, and I'm one of the faculty here as part of the program.
Great. My name is Bryan Ness. I am the graduate program director and also the chair of the Communication Sciences Disorders Department.
Hi, everyone. I'm Raymond Lopez. I work in the graduate admissions office at CBU. So I work as the liaison between the admissions department, and the SLP department.
And my name is Mercy Homer, and I too am a faculty here in the CSD department.
And we're so glad all of you who are tuning in, please feel free to list any questions you have about the program in the comments. Maybe as we're waiting for some of those questions to pop up, maybe Ray or Dr. Ness, if you wouldn't mind maybe sharing a little bit about the program, or just maybe some big picture things of what our program's about.
You bet. Yeah, Ray, maybe I'll start and then you can jump in. Thanks, Johanna. You're a fantastic host. Not only are you a fantastic professor, but a fantastic host. Thank you, first of all, for everybody who's participating in this live stream. It's fun to see the questions or comments kind of pop up. I'll try not to get too distracted by that. And thank you so much for those of you that weren't able to make it live, but maybe watching this recorded. Really what we wanted to do was to reach out to the people that had expressed interest in joining our graduate program in speech language pathology. So we sent out a couple emails, a couple updates, specifically to people who had started their grad application. We know that that's a huge undertaking. We're grateful that you pursued speech language pathology as your field and that you're strongly considering grad school. And we wanted those of you that have started your applications to really consider completing your applications, first of all. So finish that job. And secondly, consider CBU as a destination for your graduate education. I think that just speaking from personal experience, CBU is a fantastic place for grad students. It's a fantastic place for undergraduate students. And it's a fantastic place to work. I truly appreciate the faculty here at CBU. I can say with 100% certainty that our faculty are here because we like students and we want to teach students and we want to pour into students. If you're interested in our program, you probably know that CBU is a Christian university. And so one of the things that makes us really unique is that the faculty do share the faith, and we do share the conviction that our work is also our ministry. And so we really do, I guess, take it personally how we connect with students. We view students as being a part of our ministry. We view teaching and preparation. Professor Homer teaches classes both in the graduate program and in the undergraduate program. And she supervises in the clinic. Professor Pulliam teaches grad classes, teaches undergrad classes, and spends quite a bit of time supervising grad students in our clinic. And I get to teach grad students also, as well as supervise. And I know that we all really value the connections that we make. We realize that students are just preparing their journey, and we want them to have all the tools. We want them to start building a collegial relationship with each other, with the faculty members as soon as possible, so that they can take those practices and they can take those ideals into the workplace. I think that in listening to students who have joined us over the last 9 or 10 years, they'll say that one of the things that they really value in the CBU graduate program is the collegiality, the closeness that the faculty have towards each other, the closeness that the faculty have towards the students, and really just committing our time to teaching and preparing the next generation of clinicians. And so, again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your interest. We know there's a lot of grad programs. We know that each program offers unique strengths. And so we're humbled that you would even consider us. And so if you have any questions throughout this live stream, just about the program, just about the faculty, about our campus, and of course the grad admission process, feel free to ask. And if you can't ask for whatever reason, you're driving down the 91 freeway or something like that and you're stuck in traffic, that's not a problem. Feel free to email us, call us. We have campus tours. And how's that for a handoff, Ray? Ray Lopez is the guy that coordinates all of that for our program. So Ray, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a tough one to follow right there, Bryan. You kind of summarized everything.
We're
But
practicing, I guess.
but I did want to reiterate just a couple of points Dr. Ness made, and probably the most prominent one there is kind of that collegiate environment. And the way I usually describe it when someone's looking into our program and kind of wants a snapshot into our culture is it really is a family environment. I know that might sound a little bit cheesy to say. Maybe it's just the holidays. Maybe, you know, those Hallmark movies are catching me right now, but it really is that. It's a small cohort, and I really haven't had more of an opportunity than to work with this department to really see just true connection with students. And I wish there was a way to kind of like bottle up the way I see the interactions between our students and our faculty, our coordinators, and really give you a snapshot of that, because it really is inspiring to see. It's one of the kindest groups of people I've ever met, passionate and capable. You are going to be experts in your field by the time you get out of this program. And we want to make sure we balance all those items, because honestly, this is where you could be calling home for the next couple of years. And when we know that's a big decision for you. So it's one of the main reasons we wanted to do this tonight, is really to kind of show you who we are and how we might fit into your goals.
Yeah. And we have some questions popping up. So I think, Ray, this is probably for you. The first question was, fall grades won't be uploaded by the time applications are due. So do you upload just the official incomplete transcript? Is that how you would do that?
Fantastic question. So yes, the short answer is submit those official transcripts still. They can have incomplete grades. You can even have classes that you haven't registered for yet. Now is the perfect time, though, because you should at least be registered for spring classes if that's when you're finishing courses. So really what we're looking for by that January 15th deadline that we post is that we have all of your documents, your submitted application. You don't have to have everything done to be considered or even accepted to the program. And this might be getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but you can be interviewed, accepted. The only difference, if you have outstanding courses, is you will have a stipulation in your acceptance that just says, hey, these have to be done by the time you start class. So yes, feel free to submit early.
Wonderful. And Dr. Ness, I see a question for you. So could you talk a little bit about how many days a week, what classes, the times classes typically are? What does the program typically look like on a weekly basis?
Great. Yeah, excellent question. When we interview graduate student applicants to our program, we let them know that this is what we consider a full-time residential graduate program in speech language pathology, meaning Monday through Friday, from the first semester until you graduate for the most part. We do try to keep you busy with either classes or with clinical practicum. So our courses are offered 2 to 3 days a week, depending on the semester. First semester students will be enrolled in courses Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And then in subsequent semesters, we tend to keep them Tuesdays and Thursdays, but that's the full day. And so, we do have 20 different courses that you'll complete throughout the course of the grad program. And then if you're not in class, then what is typically the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Wednesday, Friday, we try to have you busy with practicum. And really starting in the second semester, you can expect full day practicum on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And that may be in our clinic. We have a clinical education center here on campus, which is really nice. Every one of our grad students does a rotation through our clinic where you get to work one-on-one with the faculty and the supervisors that we have, who are also our adjunct faculty. And you see, you're working with little kids and you're working with older adults, and you get an opportunity to see a real diverse, kind of varied type of a caseload. And then other students may be placed in schools in the area or private clinics in the area. And then even we try in the second year, students who are interested in working in healthcare, we do try to place students in healthcare settings as we can. And so, yeah, to get back to the question, which I probably answered longer than I needed to, but it needs some explanation. Consider, if you're considering joining us at CBU, just know that we're busy, for the most part each day. And those are, for the most part, day courses, right? So a couple semesters we'll have classes that are evening classes going till about 7 o'clock at night. But that's the nature of our program, and it works really well for us. It's a way for us to make sure that you get all the academic education, all the academic credits that you need to be kind of a well-rounded clinician, but also make sure that you get the number of clock hours in the clinical practicum and the diverse settings that you need to be really prepared to enter the field in good shape.
Thank you. These are great questions. So please keep them coming in the chat. Even if you have more than one, please ask away. Maybe what about, we talk about what we're looking for in an applicant, more than just the grades. What makes an exceptional candidate for the CBU graduate program?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start, and then Ray, feel free to jump in, or Mercy, or even Johanna. One thing about CBU, sorry, Mercy, I forgot if we agreed who was going to be talking and who wasn't going to be talking. But one thing, with CBU and our grad admissions process is that, first of all, it's a team effort. All the faculty review applicant files, all the faculty have discussions, and we all look at, lots of different factors when it comes to our grad applicants. We don't have, hard cutoffs for grade point averages. We don't look at GRE scores. And so I think that, we try to adopt a really holistic approach to our grad application process. What we are hopeful for as we're making offers of acceptance is that we find students that are just super motivated to be at CBU. They like the culture, they like the courses that we offer, they feel connected to the faculty, and they're super motivated to create like a cohesive cohort that is interested in learning, is interested in trying new things. In grad school, you have to expand your horizons a little bit, right? You have to take classes in dysphagia. You have to take classes in speech sound disorders. You have to be well-rounded, or we want you to be well-rounded. So we want students that are willing to just pour into all the aspects of learning and to become well-rounded clinicians, so that at the end of the day, when you have your master's degree and you're looking at jobs that are available, and you're getting job offers right and left, because it's a really good market right now for speech language pathologists. We want you to be able to choose the place that God has led you to, and to have options, right? And to have choices, and to say, I'd like to work in a clinic, or maybe I'd like to work in a school, or maybe I'd like to work in a healthcare facility. So, students that are just genuinely interested in learning, are interested in working together, having a collegial, collaborative experience with other students in the program. And students that prioritize this time in their lives, right? It's only a 2-year program. For 2 years, really consider standing on your head, making grad school like a priority in your life. And I think that you'll have a great experience. Ray, other things related to applications?
A couple of things come to mind. One is, and it probably seems really simple, but when you're doing your essay, really think of this as your first opportunity to give us a snapshot into who you are and why you align with this program specifically. We see a lot of students do is kind of reiterate professional accomplishments or academic accomplishments. Nothing wrong with that at all, but really think we're going to be able to see that from your transcripts, from your experiences that you've notated. So again, don't let your personality kind of shine through in that essay. Really sell us on who you are, as opposed to what you've done at this point. Another area that we see students kind of undersell themselves is in the volunteer experience. I think people are hesitant to like pat themselves on the back for experiences that they have of volunteering, and especially if it's not in the realm of comm disorders. So really, the way we're looking at volunteer experience is how are you using your free time to give back to better causes? Because that really feeds into how we view your character and how you align with our values as a program. So those are kind of the two that I always want to touch on as far as admissions goes.
That's great.
Well, I think if I could jump in just for a second, I think all that's great. We do look at the academic background, you know, your biology, chemistry, statistics, all that kind of stuff. But to kind of piggyback on what Ray was saying, I mean, we want that professional experience for you, but inclusive of that is, especially if you're doing a post-baccalaureate, we want to look at that volunteer work, and we want to look to see if it's related to the field of speech-language pathology. We're also looking, like Ray said, at your personal statements. What is your motivation personally for pursuing SLP? I know that when I review applications, I don't want something that's just kind of canned or reiterated from the college, you know, vision statement or purpose statement, right? We want something that's personally motivating, and understanding whether you understand the field and its challenges and its opportunities and how you're going to see yourself fitting into that. And your personal qualities that align with the, you know, with the demands of the program. And of course, your letters of recommendation are really, really important. We recommend that you get them from professors, that they're current, right? Or if we have them from a recent supervisor, that it's somebody who can give you a positive letter of recommendation, but also can give us some insight into who you are as well. So those diverse experiences, multilingual abilities, all those kind of things kind of factor in as well. So that's just my 2 cents, I guess.
And it's such a joy to read them. We really enjoy reading those.
Yeah.
What about, we have a couple more questions that have popped up. How can we prepare ourselves for the interview process if we were chosen to receive an interview?
Yeah, you know, our interviews are pretty simple. They're pretty straightforward. If you can envision what it would be like to talk to us in a Zoom meeting just like this, that's pretty much what our interviews are. We will ask you questions again about, you know, why you're interested in CBU. We're interested in, you know, what your goals are potentially in the field. We like to know that the people that we're bringing into the program enjoy working together in a collegial atmosphere. That you view grad school as, you know, you're a part of a team and you're all working to the same goal, and that you're willing to, you know, maybe if you have it in your heart that you are 100% going to work in an early intervention setting and you just love working with little kids, we also want to know that you're going to be 100% passionate about learning about aphasia and maybe learning about motor speech disorders. And again, just because of, you know, the nature of grad school and trying new things and being open-minded and seeing where, you know, God might lead you. You never know what door he's going to open for you in grad school. So we ask questions to try to get at, you know, people's motivations and you know, their goals, and just a little bit of their character in being comfortable and working with people. So prepare yourself by, I guess, thinking about those things and by being a good team member now in your undergrad program.
And if I could jump in just once again, too, with the interview process, I think something that we can spot is authenticity and nerves, right? So we all get nervous. I think it's just a part of being human. But when you're preparing for your interview, it's important to be professionally, I need my own professional services, professionally prepared, but also be calm enough and set yourself up for success to have an authenticity about you where you're just kind of demonstrating who you are without masking, because that's our one shot at getting to know you as a person, and we really quite enjoy when we're able to kind of get in there and get to know you. So
Absolutely. Make sure you have good, strong internet.
yes.
Avoid interviewing from the car or from Starbucks.
Yes.
You know, make sure that the background looks at least as good as Ray's. I don't think it could look as good as Johanna's back there with the artwork, but, you know, present yourself. Just think about, like, we'll interview 120 or 130 people in the matter of 2.5 days, right? So we do a lot of interviews in a very short period of time. You don't want to be the one who's like, do you believe that she ordered that half calf latte and, going through the Starbucks during the interview. We don't want to be that person. So do your best do your best to be prepared in that regard as well.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to meeting you all. We are.
We love it. It's a fun time to get to know everybody and to see everybody. And we hope that it's fun for you as well. We don't want it to be scary. That's for sure.
No. We had another question for the application. It's just through the CSD CAS, correct? There's not a separate one or anything else they need to fill out, correct?
So you'll basically, yes, your application, everything that we're going to consider is through CSD. You will get a short questionnaire after your application is verified, but it's really just to collect demographic data that we have to report on as a university. Does not impact your consideration for the program.
Great. And then a question about work experience. How heavily does work experience weigh into the application? Does a position adjunct to communication and sciences disorders look better than something that does not relate to the field?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a lot of undergrad students will ask that. And students who maybe worked in a different field and went back to school and got their bachelor's degree in speech. And I would say that it doesn't weigh as heavily as most applicants think it does, right? So we know that if you're applying to go to grad school, you've never been a speech language pathologist before, right? And if you have, it's been in a very modified format from the one that you're preparing to learn about. So, speech pathology is a people field, right? So jobs that are related to interacting with people, it might be, a nanny position. It might be a retail position. Most of our students have worked in some service industry, just given the nature of the schedules. Sometimes people will come in with speech language pathology assistant experience. And of course, that's fantastic. And that weighs, heavily in our minds, just as far as, okay, this person at least is going to have some familiarity with the clinical education setting. But if you don't have any experience as a SLPA or as a behavioral therapist or as a substitute teacher, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be a great grad student. And again, it's if you have an open mind, if you have a great work ethic, if you're a good team member, if you're willing to learn. So you have to be willing to try and fail. And you're like, oh, I had no idea that this is what speech language pathology was like, but then get better from that and continue learning. Like, really, that's the most important thing. Whatever experience you have. And you're going to use that. I mean, I worked in an auto body shop. I worked, construction. I dug up railroad ties. Like, all of those things helped become a speech language pathologist. And you could use any of your skills to your benefit in grad school for sure. So don't sweat it, but different experiences will definitely weigh differently when we look at those applications.
Especially with your personal essay, it's your time to be able to leverage, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, some of those opportunities, because you can clarify maybe if there was a spot of time where you were a stay-at-home mom, for example, or you kind of grew a family, or there was a time where you went back to school. You can use those things, because if looking at it, we might see a time lapse, or maybe you had a different experience when you were much younger in university versus now, right? You can kind of explain those things about your personal journey and kind of clarify that, not ad nauseum, but it's an opportunity for us to have some clarification there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a tuition question. Did you see the tuition question?
I can get that one.
That's the Ray Lopez special right there.
So yes, with tuition, just to jump straight, I'm going to sound like a used car salesman right here, so I apologize. But the out the door cost, so to speak, once you factor in your per unit tuition cost, practicum fees, general fees, is approximately $75,000 based on current year tuition. Now, since I've been here, I haven't seen more than a 3% increase year over year, and we do a really good job at trying to keep that consistent. One thing that the university does is they look at the median salary for the positions that you could be going into post-graduation. We try to keep the total cost of the program in line with that median salary. And the other folks here can probably speak to this a little bit better, but the earning opportunity actually definitely outweighs that $75,000 currently. So there's no shortage of opportunities out there. Now, as far as scholarship opportunities, tuition assistance, we actually have a relatively new tool that the university uses. It's called Scholarship Universe. And you have access to this as soon as you're accepted to the program. So let's say you're accepted in February-ish, you are able to start using that immediately and start looking for scholarships. And the way you do it is you plug in answers to about 150 questions roughly. The more specific you can get, the better, because it tailor-makes scholarships to you. And then you get weekly updates letting you know what's available. So it prevents you from having to do like digging on like FastWeb and things like that. The other thing that it does is it validates them for authenticity. So if it's not an internal scholarship, it's kind of verifying that there's no scam ones that are coming through to you. So we're always looking at that. Outside of scholarship opportunities, grad students do qualify for federal aid as well. At the grad level, that usually looks like loans. So it's $20,500 per year in unsubsidized loans. And then you can submit an application for Grad Plus loans to help offset tuition costs as well. So there's a lot of different opportunities there. And then also, once you're accepted to the program, you do have access to our financial aid and student account counselors, which really can go into kind of the nitty gritty of things like interest rates, personal or private loans. So there's a lot of ways to kind of address tuition.
Ray, is there a way for you to put that link, to post a comment to that link, and we could pin it to the top, the tool you were talking about?
I can, but you do need CBU login information
to
be able to access.
So it's not open access. Got it. Okay.
It's not, yeah.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ray. So a few more questions. Joy asked, what would you say is the most rewarding part about being an SLP and being in the program?
Johanna, what do you think? Speaking of joyful and best part about being in speech pathology.
I know. I'd say for one thing that I just think is amazing about this field, not only do we get to help people, which is just, the joy in that, there's so many things you can do with it. I've worked in the schools, I've worked in clinics, I've worked in hospitals, I've worked inpatient, I've worked outpatient. You will never be bored in this field. I've worked with babies all the way up to geriatric. So I think that is one thing that's really rewarding and just really fun about being an SLP, is that there's so many things you can do with the degree. And like I said, you will never be bored. So I would say for me, that's I would say one of the most rewarding parts about being an SLP. And also we get to interact with families. We're working on, communication. It's, when you're working with someone in a child in the school or someone in a hospital, yes, they, maybe they see physical therapy as well, but they really want to communicate. They want their loved one to be able to have a conversation with them. And so we get to play an important part in that. And then also just with the family members. So really just getting to interact and engage with the whole family is, I think, a really big joy and my favorite part about being an SLP. And then I think one of my favorite things about the CBU program in general, Dr. Ness touched briefly on this at the beginning, that we have an on-campus clinic. And it's such a joy. We all enjoy supervising, getting to be in the clinic. Professor Homer and I, we take turns bringing each other coffee, and, it's fun to be over there. And then it's to get to know each of you even better in that clinical setting. So in smaller groups, you rotate through for a semester at some point during the program. And so we really get to know you well.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone else want to add to that?
That sounds fantastic.
We have another question about, on average, how many applications do we receive for the SLP program, and around how many interviews do we take?
Yeah, that's a good question. And Ray, check my numbers if I'm misstating it. In the last 3 years or so, we've seen a little bit of an uptick in the number of applications that we receive. So we'll be anywhere between 175 and 200, what they call verified applications. So for those of you, who have started your application, you're verified once the central application system receives all the required information plus double checks to make sure that it meets the criteria. So, hopefully, that number is about the same this year. So of the 200 applicants, we will probably interview approximately 120, 125 applicants. And we pick those people just because they meet the essential criteria for, having the potential to be a really great grad student and to make the most out of their opportunity here at CBU. And we do those 120-ish interviews in, like I said, 2.5 days. And that's how it's gone for the last few years. And I would expect that to be the same. If you follow the trends in speech language pathology, like I know you do, you'll be aware that acceptance rates in grad schools have gone up over the last few years. So it used to be anywhere from 15% to 20% of applicants got accepted to a program, like a very small percentage of people actually got into grad school. Well, that number has gone up pretty significantly. Upwards of 40 to 45% of applicants get into grad school now, which might not sound like great news for you all at the moment, but believe me that that's a significant increase. And so, when we say we'll interview 120, maybe the knee-jerk reaction is, wow, that's like crazy. What are the odds? Blah, blah, blah. But the fact is, a lot of those 120 people will get an offer of acceptance, not just to CBU, but to other universities. And so we tend to work our way through what we call the wait list. And that's just because so many of you that are applying are great students. And we can only accept a certain number. Our cohort size, I didn't see if there's a question about that, but the number of students that we can have in our program per year is 30 students. And I did see a question about when we admit. We only admit students in the fall. So that 30 will join us in fall of 25. And then they'll be our 10th cohort of graduate students. So to get those 30 students, we make offers from our interview pool, but we'll make a lot more than 30 offers because the students that we make those initial offers to, they'll accept an offer from a different university. So, really the chances of getting into grad school, the number of programs that are out there, the number of students has decreased a little bit as the number of programs has increased. So again, fill out your application, do that extra work, make sure that you moved from the start category in the admission into the application to the finished and verified category, because you never know, like God has a plan for you. And, you never know until you try, until you throw your hat in that ring and you see what happens. So hopefully that answered a couple of the numbers questions that are in the comments. Ray, did I forget anything there or not mention anything in terms of the applicant pool?
That's pretty spot on. The only thing I'd add to is the 120-ish. I just wanted to assure everyone that we are not looking to exclude anyone. I think last year we did more interviews than we ever have, and a lot of that is driven by faculty want to get to know you. They want to give you that shot. So we say 120, but who knows what that could be.
Supply. Let's be at 140, 150. We'll camp out here that week, right?
That's right.
Mercy.
We'll order out.
For coffee, Johanna.
Yeah.
Ray, do you want to take the most recent one that popped up? Do you see that one?
I can. So really good question. And if there's a takeaway tonight, make a note of this, because We love using CIDCAS to process applications. It's kind of your best friend sometimes, but it does take time. So that green application status, that refers to what Dr. Ness mentioned about being verified. That means you've submitted your application, you've paid the fee, and you've submitted all your supporting documentation to meet the criteria for admission. So the things that can take some time there are, one, the universities that you've gone to previously. Sometimes they're a little bit slow to send transcripts, and then there's processing time from CIDCAS on top of that. So that's where that 4-week estimate comes from. Sometimes it moves a lot quicker than that. Sometimes it moves a little slower than that. So that December 18th is a good personal deadline. It doesn't mean that if you submit after that, that it's, you know, out of the question or anything. But I would highly recommend giving yourself 2 to 3 weeks of advanced time to just solve any issues that could come up. Sometimes there's minor questions that CIDCAS has for you to finish that verification process. And the other thing to balance is that we are approaching the holidays. So that in and of itself creates some delays here and there. So all that to say is give yourself some time to make sure that your application is verified by that January 15th date.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And can one of you repeat again how many interviews we did last year?
Mercy,
Roughly.
do you remember 125-ish?
It was in the mid 120s. It was
Yeah.
quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like Ray said, it's easier to go over the target number than under, because, you know, all the applicants are, you know, you just find things that you want to get to know about each of them. And so it's only the physical limitation of the number of people that we can accept, the number of classes, the seats, you know, the size of the classrooms, the number of clinical placements. That's the only thing that limits, you know, our cohort size. So good question.
And then Ray, do you see the question about transcripts?
I do. That's another good question. So the nice thing is you do not have to send your transcripts directly to CBU. That's the benefit of CIDCAS, is that they collect all of your documents, and as long as you're putting CBU down as a reporting school, we have access to all of that. So you don't have to order multiple copies or anything like that.
Thank you. These are great questions.
Yeah, so many questions. We're glad you asked the question, Brianna. That's why we're doing this.
And if you have the question, there's several other people who have it too. So it's great. Great. Professor Homer, anything we didn't touch on that you can think of that you'd want to emphasize?
I was just looking at our list, our student questions from last year. One question that we didn't touch on was that some people had inquired about research opportunities for students. Although we're not like an R1 facility, we do engage in research activities. So maybe Dr. Ness could kind of speak to that a little bit.
Well, I might a little bit, and then I'll just defer it right back to you, Professor
The person
Homer,
who just got back
who
from
just had a
ASHA.
poster presentation at ASHA convention this year. But yeah, I mean, just to sort of tee it up, you know, CBU is definitely a program where I think we prioritize preparing students for clinical practice first. Our, you know, faculty, as was already mentioned, a lot of our faculty work in our clinic. They supervise students. They have areas of clinical expertise. They've got lots of experience working in the field. And I think just have a shared vision and a heart to pour into our grad students to help them be, you know, just the best clinicians possible, move our field in a positive direction, prepare students to work in the communities where they live and where they're from. And so we really try to prioritize that. But also our faculty have research interests. Our faculty are productive in research. We have faculty members that publish their research in our professional journals, our peer-reviewed journals, and we have faculty that present at professional conferences. And oftentimes we see that. And we also have faculty that collaborate with students in their research from time to time. For example, Professor Homer and Dr. Kim just presented some research that they completed here at CBU, and had a poster presentation at the annual ASHA convention, which was up in Seattle this year. And so we're involved with ASHA. We support our state association and their conference. So Mercy, do you want to share a little bit about your project?
Sure. I don't know if this is the time or place, but yeah, Dr. Kim was the primary investigator, and I joined her in this endeavor to kind of investigate the use of AI technologies in intervention planning. So something that's a really hot topic in our field and doesn't have a strong evidence base as of yet. And we know students are using AI, right? So we wanted to collectively kind of research some of the tools that are out there currently. And we had some great findings. So we got to collaborate with students, and they were a part of a grant that and they got to work with us and travel alongside. It was quite a big deal for CBU to be represented there. So it was really great. But yeah, so that we have several research interests. I know several of our faculty, they've presented, and I think some are going to present at some of our local conventions this year. So there are opportunities for you to engage in research. And the other thing I was thinking that was asked last year, some of things about clinical placements, if I can just kind of, maybe you guys can kind of take point after this, but something very unique about CBU to kind of upsell a bit is that you don't have to find your own clinical placement. We have clinical faculty that do that for you. We have a clinical coordinator and a clinical director who collaborate, and they find placements, that are phenomenal. And we've really have a grandiose choice at this point in time over the last 5 years post-COVID, really increased our bandwidth in terms of representation of medical placements, pediatric placements. So it's not a worry for you as a student. Some universities require you to do that on your own, and we support you with that. I'm not part of the clinical faculty, but they are very supportive, and they take your strongly into your consideration of your personal clinical interests in mind when you talk to them about that. And the other thing with pertaining to sites, just information about practicum expectations, like Dr. Ness was saying, our main thing, keep the main thing the main thing. You know, when you're in school, it's considered like a full-time job. It's your devotion for the next 2 years. So prioritizing clinic while still having a good work-life or school-life balance is kind of imperative, and it takes a bit. Sometimes you're on the bit of the razor's edge there, as we all are, trying to work and balance life. But we just ask that students really take it very seriously and prioritize their placements, and because it is for your learning and your ongoing learning as a clinician, and so you can matriculate from this fine institution of learning and be successful. So those were the two things I saw.
Thank you so much, Professor Homer.
Yeah.
Let's see. We had two more. So, right. Bryan had a question again about if you don't have one of the prerequisite classes, will I have enough time to complete it before the term begins? Right. As long as they are registered for it for spring, it would still show up, right, Ray? Or
generally, yes. Every school is a little different. Some of them you can see registration for the next 2-3 semesters. So the nice thing is that you're typically offered a spot pretty early in the program. So if you know what you have to complete, you have the whole summer to do so. And we have some recommendations that aren't affiliated with CBU where we can say, hey, you might want to look at this school to finish that last prerequisite. Or even if you're registered for it already, all you have to do at that point is send an updated transcript, and we just check it off.
All right. And Ray, for grads, for applying, how long do you recommend a resume be? What's a good length?
I would say 1 to 2 pages.
That was a popular question.
Yeah, it's a great
Speech
question.
resumes are longer than business resumes, right? Like a couple pages for a speech application, that's a piece of cake. We can handle that.
And then placements. Where are they? Our team really works well to, try to keep everyone close within is an hour or less drive. Sometimes if someone is driving, possibly an hour. Usually it's because it's a really great placement and it's for something that they really are passionate about. Maybe it's in a clinic, they're really passionate about voice. And so maybe they're driving a little bit further to be able to get that experience at a clinic that specializes in that. Anything you'd want to add to that question about placements?
Yeah, placements, we do have a clinical coordinator who manages all the placements. It's very complicated. So we have to have contracts with the facility. The facility has to have SLPs who are willing to supervise. Those SLPs have to be properly trained, have to be available, and are going to be in that position for the next 3 or 4 months. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. We wish that we could place every single student 3 blocks from their house, but we just can't do that. So we do ask students that they be willing to drive 30 or 40 miles from the campus to their site. And we're very, very interested, and we meet with students every semester. We want to know where you are. We want to know what you're interested in doing. And we try our very best to make the perfect fit for placements. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Know that our heart is for you and that we want the best for you. We're not saying, oh, you gotta, I know you want to work in a high school, but we're going to put you in an elementary school just because we want to watch you suffer. It's just because that's sometimes how the circumstances unfold. So,
and something that factors into, Dr. Ness, that too, is that the clinical coordinator has a huge role, like you just communicated. And what they're looking at is not just your clock hours. There's a whole subtext called clinical competencies. And in order to graduate and successfully graduate, you have to meet certain competencies and have experience with different types of what we call the big 9, right? The big 9 areas of clinical practice. So those choices for clinical placements it also factors in on your previous experiences and what you still need in order to graduate, plus your, the decision of what you want to do and your clinical interest. So it's kind of like a very, like you said, kind of a Jenga matrix kind of thing. So definitely work with you.
Mm-hmm. And then do some of our current cohort come from post-bac programs?
Yes, they do.
They
Both
do.
cohorts, first years and second years. So yeah, there are a number of post-bacs in this area. There's a number of post-bacs in distant areas. And so yes, we're very happy when they join us here at CBU.
Great
I'll add on to that a little bit. It's actually a common question that we get in other info sessions we do, and sometimes it has maybe a little bit of apprehension behind it. I think there's this idea that, oh, I didn't do my entire bachelor's in comm disorders. Does that make me less competitive? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're looking for is what you mentioned earlier, is those transferable skills. It doesn't necessarily have to be in comm disorders, but you can look at another major and go, hey, there's leadership skills, communication skills here. There's a lot of different angles that you can look at it from. So all that to say is you won't be less competitive as a post-bac student.
Right. So yeah, good point, Ray. And also consider not every post-bac offers the same courses. And so there may be courses that you want to look into as prerequisites. One university might ask you, for example, we don't offer oral rehab as a course in our grad program. So sometimes students might have to take that if a post-bac program may not offer that particular class. But again, we work with you on a case-by-case, person-by-person basis. Yeah, post-bac's a great option. Personally, it's fun to see a student that's got a background in a different but related area that decides, oh, I think speech is actually my thing. And then they're super motivated to pursue the graduate degree. So don't be discouraged. I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah. Professor Homer, do you want to touch on this last question? It kind of ties in with what you were talking about earlier of the different areas we're exposed to work in during grad school.
Yeah, so, and probably Dr. Ness could kind of piggyback on this, but per ASHA requirements, you have to have 3 distinctive types of placements. And I think we could go in the weeds with that, but basically that's the requirement of ASHA. So that could vary from an elementary school, a high school, and a private practice. 3 distinctive different settings, right? You different ages across the lifespan. So all of those things kind of factor in, but in terms of exposure, you are required to have exposure across the lifespan. And that kind of gets interwoven, like you can say, Johanna, when you have cases across the lifespan when you come to the clinic residentially here, because we have littles to biggles, to coin a phrase, as I said, we have little ones and we have, adult geriatric patients. So you are going to definitely meet those ASHA requirements. I'm not certain I answered your question, Yunira, but you do have hospitals, schools. There's a variety of choices there, and you will be exposed to them because you have to have exposure to different ages and stages and across the lifespan. That's an ASHA requirement. So it may look different for you individually, right? So,
yeah, and not just ASHA, but successful graduates from our program. They will be eligible for state licensure, right? So state of California to be licensed to be an SLP. You're also eligible for your teaching credential, which means that we make sure that you get at least 120 hours of practicum in a public school. So you get ASHA certification, state licensure, teaching credential, all of that is tied up in the practicum and these different sites that Professor Homer is talking about. So it is really important to sort of keep an open mind about that. And it's good to be indecisive. It's good to know, not necessarily like, I'm going to do exactly this, because as we pointed out before, who knows? We make our plans, but God directs our steps. And on many occasions, we've had students come in who are, I love healthcare. I'm going to work in a hospital, and they do their school placement in their second year, and they're just like, oh, I found my thing, and then they go from healthcare people to school people like overnight. And so that's good. Like that's the whole point. And so being open-minded and not having just this real clear, narrow, fixed view of the field is really beneficial at the onset of grad school.
And it's good for you across your lifespan, because let's face it,
Amen.
we are young, we are old, we go through phases of life. I always say, like, if you are a stay-at-home mom or dad, there may be a period of life where you want to go to part-time, and you want to make sure you keep up skills in those areas that lend themselves to having a job in that area. There's so much flexibility, like Johanna was talking about in our field. You can do so many different things. So coming in with a narrow focus isn't always a great idea. You should have some open-minded. It's good to have a niche, but you shouldn't be so niched down that you're not open to other things, right? So,
yeah. Absolutely. Let's see. So as we're wrapping up, any last thoughts, anything we haven't touched base on that you wanted to share, you think is important for students or applicants to know here at the end? We had some really good questions that facilitated really good discussion.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I'll be happy to kind of wrap it up. And as far as, the last minute things, not exactly sure what to add as far as, preparations or, academics or school. But in the end, just trust the Lord, like he's got a plan for you. He loves you. He's got a purpose. That's our motto here at CBU is live your purpose. So just know that whatever that is, like we're rooting for you. We know that he's got a plan for you. And, whether it's here at CBU, whether it's at, Cal State Fullerton, wherever it is that he leads you, he's good. This is a great field. It's a great profession. It's the kind of work that sometimes you get tired doing it, you get tired in it, but you never really get tired of it. And just the kids that you work with, or the people that you work with, or you end up in a faculty one day like we have here at CBU. It's just, it is a blessing to be able to make a difference and to connect to people like that. So maybe we should end with a quick prayer. and then we'll call it a live stream virtual open house wrap. How does that sound? So let me pray for everybody, and then maybe Johanna, you can sort of carry us out. So Heavenly Father, thank you for this night. Thank you for the just amazing blessing that people showed up and had questions and are interested in coming here to CBU for grad school. I'm humbled by that. I'm grateful to you and just give you all the praise and glory. I pray for these students that you give them wisdom, that you give them peace of mind, that you'd guide their steps, Lord, that you would turn their hearts in the way that you would have them walk, Lord. We know that you're good and that you have plans for them, and we trust you in that, Father. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all so very much for joining, and thank you so much for bringing your questions. If you joined late, absolutely, we will have this posted later. So if you want to go back and listen, but please reach out via email or contact us if you have any questions or as things come up later. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Anything else, Professor Homer?
Just thought of this, and maybe we could piggyback. I think maybe I wasn't paying attention, right? But we will have tours at some point. So keep your eye on, our social media, our socials, Instagram handle and Facebook for upcoming things like that, where you can kind of come, or just feel free to contact us. We're very approachable faculty if you have a question and want to email us or stop by sometime. So
we love to get out of our office and walk people around. So.
We do.
Oh, thank you so much again, everyone, for joining, and have a wonderful evening.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.